After serving 20 years in jail for the murder of a sheriff who came to remove Ruth Slater and her 5-year-old sister Katie from their childhood home after their father passed away and their mother passed away in childbirth, Ruth Slater is now free. While everything is going on, Keith, the oldest son of the sheriff Ruth killed, learns of Ruth's parole and starts following her, finding out where she resides and works. Keith is resolved to exact retribution, but his younger brother Steve won't join him since he has a family of his own and keeps admonishing Keith to leave it alone. Ruth gets a mysterious phone call while she's at the group home. The person on the other end of the line calls her a cop killer, to which Ruth responds by hanging up the phone. As she re-enters her room, Ruth finds one of her roommates breaking the no-stealing rule by going through her belongings looking for unknown items. Ruth attacks the roommate, forcing her to leave the room. Ruth is shocked to find her old house completely rebuilt when she eventually goes back there. She meets John and Liz Ingram, the new residents. Ruth is even more amazed by all the effort when John extends an invitation to come inside. John offers Ruth a lift to the bus stop as she heads out, feeling compassionate towards Ruth. After discovering that John is a corporate attorney, Ruth informs him about her hunt for Katie and he decides to assist her. John soon discovers the reality about Ruth's history, though. Ruth says she's sorry for lying, but John still accepts her argument. Ruth is performing her second job at a construction site when Steve enters and strikes up a brief conversation with Ruth. Steve is unknown to Ruth. Ruth says that her parents are deceased when Steve brings up the subject. Ruth replies that life goes on in response to Steven's apology. As Ruth departs, Steve stays behind and digs through Ruth's possessions. When he comes upon a picture of Katie, he realizes that Katie actually exists. John learns where Katie and her family are. He contacts the Malcolms' parents, Michael and Rachel, who grudgingly agree to meet Ruth in private. Ruth learns during the conversation that Michael and Rachel purposefully kept her identity from Katie and suppressed every letter she sent to Katie while she was incarcerated. They caution Ruth that it's better for her if Katie doesn't remember or know anything about her. The Malcolms furiously storm out of the room when Ruth loses control of her emotions. When Katie's younger adoptive sister Emily overhears her parents discussing Ruth, she finds the letters. Emily reads Ruth's words and is moved to tears by how they make her feel. Emily decides to get in touch with Ruth and set up a meeting in order to assist her find the answers to the queries she read in the letters and eventually offer Ruth the tranquility she so badly wants. Emily tells Ruth during their meeting that Katie has a rehearsal later on that day at a nearby theater. Steve follows Emily as she makes her way back to her house and learns her address. Ruth goes back to the Ingrams' residence. She needs John's advice and wants to speak with him, but he is not at home. She now gets the chance to see Katie at the rehearsal. Through flashbacks, it is revealed that the shot that killed the sheriff was really fired by 5-year-old Katie, but Ruth accepted responsibility and went to prison to shield her. After finding out about Katie, Steve gets more determined to exact revenge. However, he finds his brother Keith having a sexual relationship with his wife and beats him before leaving the home. He kidnaps Emily, thinking she is Katie, driven by his rage. Ruth gets a call from Steve demanding that she come to where they are as she arrives at the recital. Liz takes her there and as Ruth enters, she realizes something is wrong and phones the police. Steve says he wants to murder the girl, but when Ruth apologizes for all that has transpired, he changes his mind. Ruth assists Emily in leaving the room, then cooperates with the authorities, resulting in Steve's arrest. Ruth is freed soon after Vince arrives on the scene. Ruth discovers that Emily's parents and Katie have arrived to take up Emily as she and Vince start to leave. Ruth and Katie then finally cross paths and embrace.